Can you talk about the ways in which you feel like they really latched on to your past and inserted themselves in a way that you maybe needed at the time, but used that to manipulate you?
Yeah. When we say they, for me, at the beginning of this group, it was Les and Pam, who was the mother of the two young men who had started the Bible study. Pam, I have found over the years to be a really disturbed woman, but I couldn't see it at the time. She just really loved being a mother figure for all of these young women in our group. Yeah, when we say they, it's specifically those two people because the rest of the group was really still formulating and they were also being love bombed and they were also being manipulated. And so until it became a full cult where we're all just manipulating each other without knowing it because it's just programming on autopilot, it's really just those two who were super unhealthy people. And I don't know what their diagnosis might be, but they were definitely targeting us. To answer your question, shoot, ADHD, squirrel. What did you say? What was
No, that's okay. The way that they inserted themselves as both spiritual authority and parental authority in a way that you may have needed at the time.
Yeah. If you're intuitive, you are able to see gaps in people's needs. It's not that hard, I don't think. You know, if you spend any time with anyone or sit and talk with strangers or friends, you start to sense like, oh, this is where the insecurity point is for this person. What a perfect setting. You get people in a religious environment where they're going to be the most vulnerable because that's the deepest part of all of us. That's our soul. We want to feel safe. And if you do feel safe and you're young, especially, you open up. So I did. And so many of us did. And that becomes a really easy way to start dialing in on where all the gaps in rearing and the insecurities lack in identity in different spots. So I think they intuited those or sometimes just outright mentioned them or heard us talk about them and offered a solution of whatever their answers were at that moment that was going to make us feel closer to them and safer with them. Like, I'm seen. Oh, finally, I've got, talk to me about your relationship with your mom, Joy. And then calculating all the gaps. Okay, I know how to fill all of those gaps. And so stepping in exactly the places where my mom might not have been able to show up for me because of what she was going through in her life at that time. And same thing with my dad. I think Les saw where the gaps were, calculated how he could step in and show up for me in exactly those places. It was not by accident in any way.
And something else that I noticed, you were always very independent growing up and moving out when you're 18, you go to New York, you go to Los Angeles, you're doing these big adult things as a young person, young adult. And then when you get into this group and Les starts to take over, something that I noticed was the infantilization of you have to be like a child. You have to accept as a child. You have to, bringing you back down to this state of neediness or codependence. And I wonder how that pushed back against your very independent spirit. Did you notice that happening? Was it hard for you to let go of that control?
Great question. It was hard, yes, but it was presented to me as a powerful choice. The truth about vulnerability, and I do believe this is true, it takes immense strength to be vulnerable because it's easier to just put up a wall and not feel anything. Using an idea like that to present to me and many others in the group a way of living where I'm choosing vulnerability, I'm choosing childlikeness in the way that I approach them, the way I approach so many things in the world. It was presented to me as though that was a real strength. And so the independent in me wanted to be strong. And the people that I trusted were telling me this is the equation for strength. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So it's a total mindfuck, but I bought into it as a measure of pride almost. I'm so strong that I'm going to choose to lay down my autonomy.
Yeah.
So that I can receive real wisdom and become the mature person I'm meant to be.
Yeah. No, I get it. And that's one of the things they do, right? Is they flip things on you and make it make sense to where you're like, oh yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
One thing that I remember in your book is that conversation with your dad where you're like, Dad, I am so in tune with God. I even let God choose what I'm going to wear that day. And he's like, huh? So the cognitive dissonance starts to come in from your family and they're like, wait a second, that feels like a little bit too much. And you thought he would be proud of you. Let's talk about ways in which those on the outside of the group started to push back when they noticed some of the signs.
Well, that was one of the ways, yes, as you detailed that I do talk about that in a chapter. Language became a huge point of contention between me and my family, and probably with other friends that were outside the group who just weren't going to say anything. That's another part of cults. There's this sense of a common language, secret words, secret phrases that are inside jokes. It's the buddy, like, one of the things we would say a lot is, I don't receive that. So if somebody's saying to you, well, honey, I know how disorganized you are. So I just wanted to check and make sure that you had it, like maybe not the nicest way of saying something, but it's true. I'm not organized. But, by then it was like every single thing had a category and a compartment. So that went into the compartment of my true identity. I am not going to be a person who is disorganized. Therefore, I am not going to receive this message. I'm like putting a verbal barrier. I'm saying, no, I don't receive that message that I'm disorganized. And so I would literally say that, like, I just don't receive that, Mom.
What would she say to that?
She'd be like, what? I'm like, I just don't receive it. That's just not the truth about me. She's like, well, I would love for that not to be the truth about you one day. That would be great for you to grow into that. But like, I was at your house last week. What are you talking about? So it's things like that where the catchphrases make you feel bonded and you stop being able to laugh at yourself, right? So somebody says, yeah, I was at your house last week. I know you're disorganized. You can't be like, I know, I'm working on it. It's, no, you don't know me and you don't know what my spiritual journey is and what I'm going through. And it's immediate defense. And the fact that there's opposition is proof that you're on the right track because Satan is always trying to attack you through other people. And it's just, there just is a constant build up thing upon thing of a defense against the world and against everybody else that's outside of the group.
How did this affect your work then? Because, I've been on set. I know what it's like. They have direction to give. And I know that it's a little bit different in the sense that you're working. But as far as just being on set in that environment that can be a little hostile when people are trying to get things done, did you ever say, I don't receive that to someone of the crew or another cast member?
I don't think so, because I knew that world. So I knew it like the back of my hand and knew it so well. There were things I didn't understand, like the financial aspects of things. And I didn't understand, the difference between a gaffer and
the grip
best boy. Like there were different things that I didn't understand, but like the emotional tone, the professional tone I got. So I didn't do a lot of that on set. On occasion, I would maybe mention to somebody, hey, I just felt like, sorry if this is weird. I just felt like God wanted me to tell you, like, you're loved and everything's going to be okay, or whatever, whatever sort of I was sensing or something, I might go say something to somebody, but it was always with a lot of reverence and a lot of, this is my place of work.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the things that ended up really saving me in the end, that I truly kept my work and my personal life divided, which was tearing me apart. But I have such reverence for the creative environment. You don't interfere. You don't interfere with it like that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because it seems like you would have had to bifurcate your personality, because on one hand, you're very deeply ingrained in this way of life. I mean, it consumes your thoughts, decisions, everything. And then on the other hand, you're on set, which is arguably the most worldly place you can be, right? Hollywood, with everyone working toward a common goal, creativity. I would say that it's not really a place for religion at all. And so did you feel that rubbing up against each other? Like, did you want to proselytize a little bit more, or you really just had two sort of separate yous?